When it comes to public education in America, equal opportunity for all may be the promise, but the reality is quite different. Inequity in our schools has dominated education for decades, and even with the enactment of No Child Left Behind in 2001, achievement gaps have not only persisted, but rather these gaps between children of color and their white peers have widened.
The data is telling us that kids of color in the state are certainly not performing as well as they should be. And there's also a spillover effect in other pieces of data that we look at. For example, school discipline, suspension and expulsion, their health disparities as well, and dropout rates. So we recognize that the kids certainly are not doing as well as they should be.
This disparity in education is especially evident in Connecticut, the third richest state in the nation, where race and income are highly related. With the largest achievement gaps in the nation between students from lower income backgrounds and students from higher incomes, Connecticut also stands out as having one of the largest achievement gaps between its Black and Latino students and their white peers.
When you follow the data, we recognize it's an issue, but we also recognize it's not an easy conversation to have. It's easier to talk about poverty and other issues. We must have that courageous conversation, because if not, we're not recognizing the root cause and problems that will help us to find solutions to the issue of all children being successful.
When you want to start talking about, well, what is your data saying about how your kids of color are doing compared to how your white kids are doing, it becomes an awkward conversation. So we believe one of the first things that needs to happen is we need to be able to start talking about it.
Many think the answer lies in the need for a total transformation in schools, a change in thinking and philosophy that will eradicate the racial predictability of the achievement gap.
I think a lot of it is based on teacher expectations, and so I think sometimes we have to change how we assess students, but we really need to think about what we expect students can do.
Let's talk about race. Let's talk about the expectations for children of color, how they're different. Let's talk about how in some classrooms they're treated differently. Let's talk about those things.
It is this need to bridge the achievement gaps for all students in Connecticut that the State Education Resource Center, or SERC, focuses much of its time and resources. Founded in 1969 to assist the Connecticut State Board of Education in developing programs and activities to promote educational equity and excellence, SERC is dedicated to one mission: that all students have access to opportunities and experiences that reflect their racial, cultural, and ethnic identities and abilities, and that students of every color have the right to succeed.
Our vision is very simple. We think of it as 3 words. Our vision is equity, excellence, education. But we need teachers to really go deeper. What does it really mean to help a child start to understand a piece of literature through their own racial lens, through their own cultural lens? And until a teacher is comfortable with that culturally relevant pedagogy, it's going to make it difficult to have education be meaningful for all kids.
For instance, Leslie Ann Richam, a senior at Conard High School in West Hartford, Connecticut, has a very strong personal perspective as to why it is critically important for educators to engage in difficult conversations about race, culture, and ethnicity in order to improve outcomes for all students.
I will go to college and I will get an education like beyond high school. And I think when I talk to other people about my plans, they're almost taken back and they kind of just assume that I'm not going to be able to do what I say I'm going to do. And it kind of like pushes me to achieve what I know I can achieve, just like regardless of what they say.
It's a really difficult thing since No Child Left Behind, when we've started disaggregating data to show how white students do, Hispanic students do, Asian students do, and black students do. And you look at the graph, and in West Hartford, if you didn't put labels on them, I could tell you what each line in the graph stood for. And our goal here is to get rid of that difference. That being said, when you see the graphs, that can reinforce stereotypes that people have. So it's a really hard nut to crack. So you have to look at your data, and then you have to get beyond the data to say every student in this school can learn.
Since its creation, SERC has continuously honored its original mission to support the state of Connecticut's pioneering efforts to provide research-based professional development to educators, service providers, family, and the community in having that conversation on how race intersects in education.
I think our vision says it. I think we're hoping that all kids, will be able to come to school and access what's available to them there and achieve. There shouldn't be achievement gaps. We shouldn't be worried about why one group of kids is doing differently or not as well as another group of kids. We expect all our kids to achieve.
They're pretty much teaching me to be strong and be ready for people to tell you that you can't do something.
Success to me would be to be able to have all children enter a system on an even playing field and be able to not have to be concerned or worried about color of your skin, whether you're an English language learner or any of those issues. You know that you will get the education that you need to be a successful human being.
Equity, excellence, education. Those three words capture the essence of what SERC is all about, and the hope for equality in education for students of all races and all incomes. For more information, visit ctserc.org.